Hi, my name is Taylor Bell, and my cultural artifact is a song called Strange Fruit by the phenomenal Billie Holiday. Has it ever crossed your mind that only southern trees bear strange fruit? This fruit is so strange, but yet so good that it hangs across the front yard of your friendly neighbor or your house. It is not a fruit that you can eat, oh no, unless you're up for it. But in fact, this fruit is so bitter, the poison comes from the person who hangs it. How so is that? How is it possible for someone to hang a fruit on a tree that it should already be hung up on? Well, let me tell you how possible it is. The strange fruit is a multitude of African Americans being involved with an extrajudicial killing in which white supremacists would hang them on trees as a punishment of assassination or intimidation. This was very popular in the South of the United States during the Jim Crow era in the 1930s. It was a dreadful time where there was a lot of racial discrimination was enhanced upon African Americans because of the skin color that was not acceptable in America. Strange Fruit was a song that was popular when lynching became a major disturbance to African Americans all over, but highly affected in the South, sung by the phenomenal Billie Holiday, also known as Eleanor Fagan, where she expresses the oppression of African Americans as a form of protest to racial discrimination. But Strange Fruit wasn't just also a song. It was a poem originally written by Abel Meeropol, who is a Jewish native. Meeropol wrote this poem to a witness, an article that he had read of African American in the South being killed. It disturbed him, it taunted him, so he just had to write about it. Meeropol wasn't African American, nor was he black, but to know that somebody who isn't a part of that community or my community being aware and doing anything they can to help or bring justice to my community was a heroic thing. He gave the song to Holiday. Holiday sung this song in jukeboxes, nightclubs in Harlem. She sung this song for about 20 years from the late 1930s. Of course, she was getting multiple hatred, threats, but she didn't care. She wanted to make a change for her people, her society, her community, because she knew that racism wasn't going to end, and it hasn't. Has it gotten better? In some parts, it has in America, yes, but it's still there. And so is lynching. It's not as popular as it was, but it's still here. Being a black woman and learning about this artifact, my first time hearing these songs and these lyrics, at first I didn't really understand, off gate. I'm like, what are we talking about? Until it really sat to me when I watched the video of graphic pictures of African American men or just people who look like me, who are my color, who are part of my community, being killed just based off their skin color due to white supremacists. And just to think, that it's the 1930s where basically African Americans are being freed from slavery, but were we really freed? I mean, we're being killed. If it's not by a gun, it's by a rope behind our neck. Not to mention, during the Jim Crow era, it was segregation. We couldn't sit with a white person. We couldn't even be on the bus with a white person. Even if it remotely was white or black only, we had to give it up to them. And we were being oppressed for everything, anything, restaurants, bathrooms, water fountains, schools. We couldn't receive the same type of healthcare or education as a white person because they had so much value and more importance than we did. It just really disturbs me now and even then before that the hatred, the agony, the racial discrimination that we went through all based off our skin tone. Not to mention that if I were to get a cut and a Caucasian person would get a cut, we would both bleed the same color blood. But we weren't the same, we weren't treated equally and for any God given reason. And Billie sung her heart out to this song. The pain, the hurt, the melody, the music choice, everybody loved it. Everybody in the black community. It was given a hard time for white supremacists like it because they didn't like hearing the truth. They didn't like hearing what the crucial and brutal and torture things they was doing to African Americans, people like me. They didn't like it. And honestly, half of those people who lynched, killed, tortured us, they didn't get any type of punishment. They didn't get incarcerated. They didn't. No, it was normal. It became a normal factor. And this is where our society, it breaks off. Because I shouldn't want to hurt somebody, or anybody shouldn't have to want to hurt somebody based off their skin tone. Xenophobia is real, sadly, and xenophobia is basically another term for racism. So somebody basically has a fear of foreigners, immigrants, anybody who comes to the United States, or just somebody who comes to their country. And so in the song Strange Fruit, Billie Holiday expresses the oppression, like I said, of African American protesting the disturbance of lynching and racial discrimination happening in the late 1930s. The title of the song is making a reference to the victims of African Americans being lynched. The gruesome image of black bodies hanging from the southern trees serves as a mark of a reminder of human violence as well as prejudice costs. A protest to form injustice of innocent killings of African Americans by white supremacists. And how this song has risen over the years of the late 1930s, although Billie Holiday was being threatened and tortured for her life of singing this song in any type of clubs, white supremacists were outraged at the song and its overall message. They did not like hearing anything that had to do with them hurting or torturing African Americans. But it was one of Holiday's signature songs for almost 20 years, and it became a cult song to a lot of people. Lynching has receded, but racial prejudice persists, making the song more of an attack on intolerance in general. Strange Fruit would become a relic of barbaric past only from policemen were found guilty of murdering blacks, according to Abel Elder's son. In the meantime, it is a reflection of a barbaric present. So that just says a lot of how this cultural artifact means a lot to me. And I want to read the lyrics in poetry form of the overall message that Billie was saying. Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here's a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the tree to drop. Here is a strange fruit. Here is a strange, and bitter crop. That message, I can only imagine me as an African American living during that time, what the lyrics could have meant to me, what I could have witnessed, what I could have felt during that time, knowing that it could have been me, it could have been a neighbor, it could have been somebody I known, a family member, somebody closely. Racial discrimination is still happening in America. Not just to African Americans, but other ethnic groups who have expanded the horizon and population in America over these years. Strange Fruit has not died. After the passing of Billie Holiday, unfortunately, prior to her singing it very well, Nina Simone has sung it to speak volume of the racial discrimination of African Americans in America. And to you, to this TED Talk, I would like to inform and let you understand that racial discrimination is a real thing. It is not coming to ends anytime soon due to the fact that white Americans also known as Caucasians, and African Americans or Black people or African descents will not meet men due to the fact that we will never a white person will never know the pain or how it feels to be me, a Black woman, to live in the fear of what could happen based on I look different from you because I'm Black, or I have a darker skin tone, or I'm more melanated. But to Billie Holiday, I thank you for sharing this beautiful Strange Fruit song and how it impacted me, and hopefully it can help and come to end of racial discrimination.